Cerco queste persone, le persone che non hanno tempo da perdere con le cose facili, le persone che hanno sempre qualcosa dentro negli occhi, quelle persone che mi dicono dai proviamoci, va bene, non sono sicuro che può funzionare, però facciamolo.
Nel momento in cui parti a fare un progetto nuovo è tutto un ma come lo facciamo?
Stefano abitava e abita in una frazione di un paese che si chiama Besozzo, dove sono praticamente tutti binda, c'erano circa 70 binda. Mi ricorderò sempre che ho preso l'elenco telefonico, ho preso un binda e ho detto comincio da qui, me li segno. Accade che feci una telefonata, potevo prendere chiunque, rispose lui.
Era una sera, suona il telefono, numero sconosciuto.
Gli dissi Stefano, ti va di intraprendere con me lo spirito imprenditoriale?
Sai che c'è? Io ci provo.
Anche lui lavorava nella multinazionale da cui venivo io, no? Ci stava stretto questa comfort zone.
Forse è l'occasione che aspettavo.
C'era un'affinità elettiva, c'era qualcosa che lui voleva e che io volevo e che insieme avremmo potuto portarci a casa assieme.
Quando l'ho detto a mia mamma, è rimasta lì un attimo in silenzio, mi ha guardato e mi fa «Tite sei matto, le mie al momento». Non era il momento, però sono 27 anni che siamo in ballo. Quindi il momento probabilmente te lo devi costruire tu. Con un po' di lucida follia devi cercartelo il momento e devi crederci.
Io ho spirito d'avventura e lui il coraggio di seguirmi. E quindi io sono l'esploratore. Lui è, diciamo così, il punto su cui tornare. Siamo complementari in questo senso, la curiosità, l'intelligenza, eccetera, diciamo così, la pasta, la qualità del legno che abbiamo sempre condiviso.
Faccio sempre l'esempio del mio gatto, no? Che comunque sia, lui è paurosissimo, però se c'è una cosa lui deve andare a vederla. Lui piano piano si avvicina, però lui deve curiosare, deve vedere che cos'è. Poi magari al primo rumore scappa, però... È un po', diciamo, quello che mi ha sempre guidato. La curiosità ti porta ad andare a vedere la cosa che non c'è.
Vedo una cosa strana, la vado a cercare, non mi capita, non me ne sto mai sulla strada maestra. Anche quando vado in moto non si sa dove si va, non si sa quando si ritorna.
È chiaro che se tu cerchi di vedere subito tutti i problemi non partirai mai.
Quello che ti porti a casa è l'imprevisto. Parecchi miei amici vogliono venire con me perché succede sempre qualcosa, no? Che bella quella volta che è successo che si è rotta la moto e siamo rimasti sotto le stelle, abbiamo dovuto dormire sotto la moto. Sento bollire il sangue, no? Sento che lì c'è qualche cosa di energia. Ecco, forse energia è la cosa che vado cercando. Lo spirito di avventura è quello che mi è rimasto.
Hello everyone, this is Laura Mimini. I'm an Italian industrial designer and I came to China specifically for Shan about 4 years ago. Nowadays, I'm the co-founder and design director of D2P Design to Product together with my Chinese partner, Wang Man. The goal of my company is to provide European and especially Italian design services to Chinese and international clients. The connection with the Italian and European culture is very important for us. D2P has got many years of experiences in several industries like electrical appliances, furniture, sport and fitness, baby care and so on. That's why our team of designers are mostly based in Italy.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today we are here with Lisa Hockemeyer. She is a professor at Politecnico di Milano and Istituto Marangoni. She will be here with us to give us an insight into what is storytelling and what the whole world of storytelling and how to create and narrate your project throughout this whole thing. So thank you so much, Lisa, and welcome to IDES Awards.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I think if you can give us a little brief intro into what you have done in your past, it would be amazing.
I think that will be part of my talk.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so before we start, I would like to thank the sponsors that we have today, including Casina, Keyshot, Studio Volpi, and D2P, Design to Product. All these sponsors are a part of the people that are helping us to bring this, and we want to welcome a new sponsor into this whole journey of us, which is going to be Young Designers India, which is actually going to be joining our sponsor list and helping us to make this whole awards something bigger and something greater to help people and be able to bring more opportunities to people. So without further ado, I think we can go ahead and start with your presentation, Lisa.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead, you are ready to go.
Thank you so much. Brilliant. Yes, you were asking me who I am, but before actually we are going to go into that, I would like to ask. I would actually make 4 very small points about this talk of mine today before I actually introduce myself to you. And because today is about storytelling, and storytelling is a skill, and it's very much about you and about me, and maybe about what we, and hopefully what we have in common. So today we are looking at 4 points. First of all, it is addressed to you, who actually happens to be an anonymous audience of individuals, most of whom I have never met. So I don't know who you are, and you don't know who I am. Secondly, it is very freshly prepared, so it is as new to me, this talk, as it is to you. Thirdly, it is not conclusive, so there's a lot of space actually to expand, but I hope to inspire you today. And fourth, it will be very short. Let's try to make it precise. So, before we start, actually, I have a few questions to ask. My first questions address that odd situation of ours today. What are we actually doing here? Why are we all here together today? What are your and what are my expectations of this talk? Where do we want to get from here, and what do we hope to acquire today? What do you hope to come out of this talk with afterwards? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was not so interesting? Yes, I got something out of it, and I really do hope you get something out of it. But maybe you don't have any idea what you want to get out of it right now. So these questions are really important, because basically we are very much strangers to each other. And let's not forget, in the real world, time is money. So let's not waste this. And I would like to get into the last 2 questions I have asked you. They are based on what are your and what are my expectations of this talk. Because in any talk, in any design presentation, it's not one person, it's always 2 positions. And we have different expectations, and we need to address them when we are actually presenting our project, or as a client, I might have very different expectations than you actually thought about. Where do we want to get from here today? Why are we here, and what do we hope to acquire? I was talking about us. This means we, because actually we not only aim at the future in these sentences, so what is our vision, what will we do with this tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but these questions are about you and about me. And I come back to the question of you and me. At this very moment, we are in this together. I still don't know who you are. I hope I meet you one day. So, this throws up yet again more questions. who are you and who am I? Have you ever thought about when you're presenting a project, who is the other person? Does the other person know you? Is it of any value that the other person knows you? I believe so. So who are you and who am I? We are coming from totally different places in the world. You are on the other side of the ocean right now. Some of you are very far away. Some, I hope, are also very close by and listening to this talk. But where do we all come from? We come from totally different paths of life, different ages, different countries, different climates, and right now, even different time zones. So while you might just have lunch, while later on we might have dinner. So we are coming into this talk from very different perspectives. So I'm asking you, what do we actually have in common? Because we are meeting here and we all want something out of this situation. What is our common denominator for being here today? Well, I think we all know that given today's call, we can assume that we all believe in the course of design. And so thank you very much for having us. And we believe in design, otherwise you would not be linked up here, and we believe that design basically in taking the best of the latest technologies and up-to-date science to make a change, maybe even to change the world. So we all have one thing in common. We are passionate and we do believe. You believe in design, you want to become a designer, you are a designer, you want to become a top professional, and you believe, and I hope you believe, that you can change the world. And who am I? Still, who am I to talk to you today? Why? What is my position? What is my assumptions that I actually can tell you something you might benefit from? And why do I want to talk to you? I love design. I am interested in design. I am and I present myself very, very briefly. I believe in the course of design, and I have a great faith in the abilities of you as designers. I'm in the design world for more than 35 years now, and I am not a designer. So that is why I'm talking to you about today, about the receptive part, about the person who would like to hear your story and the importance of storytelling when you are actually designing through the design process and when you are showing your design, your vision to the world. So I am a professional, I am a design historian, I'm an art historian, I work in the art world, and I am teaching now designers, young designers, for more than 25 years. And I have seen a lot of young designers, and I still haven't given up. Quite on the contrary, I love my job of teaching and of instructing and of actually being with designers and learning from them, because I can hopefully learn a lot from you as well. But what is important is that I really believe in you to change the world. I want you to change the world. I want you to help us that this world continues for the better in the future. And I want you to come up with great innovations. In this case, I'm very interested in what you will be proposing for this fantastic contest. However, I believe in you. I'm passionate about you. I love young people, but sometimes I think you can do better. And I see it quite a lot. And I have in my profession is concerned with watching, recording, telling stories, telling your stories, telling about your stories, and how you invent new things and devices that will change the problems of our existence and make our life better. These can be very small things, they can be very big things, but I'm the one who actually looks at everything and I'm talking about it, I'm witnessing, and I'm recording it. What I'm seeing actually as a professional storyteller, I'm also a critic. And I have seen but very many, unfortunately, very many fantastic projects fail. You might wonder why. I have seen many fantastic projects fail because they didn't arrive at the client, or they arrived at the client in a wrong way, or the designer was not capable of actually getting across that passion, that vision, that light in the product. Not all products are finished when you are proposing them. Sometimes it's a vision, and these are very hard to actually transmit to the designer or to the end user. So it is really a skill of transmitting your passion, your vision to the future client. So that is why I'm here today, and because I really believe that often there is a lack in communication and there's a want of connecting with the user and the client. And that is absolutely understandable, because especially if when you are designing and when you are really in the midst of it, well, you don't really think necessarily about how to transmit it, how to communicate it to your clients or to your users. But however, that portion of magic you have inside, you need to transmit. Being a good designer doesn't always mean having the capabilities of actually being a good narrator, of being a good storyteller. So let me give you a few of these tips. So my objective today is today and the vision of tomorrow. It looks at you and it looks at me, and I would like to get you and me into a we situation. That's rather impossible because you are far away. I am somewhere else. I don't know you. You got to know me a little bit, but I think we can manage that. And I really hope we get a we situation out of you and me, out of today and your visions and my visions, to see your projects being nurtured, to be your projects getting out and finding the right client. So how do we do that? We do that through storytelling. Storytelling is an amazing tool. Storytelling as a narrative of your vision. Your vision. And I said your vision because it is so independent, so individual. Nobody else has your vision. So how do you actually want other people to enter into your vision? I tried this in the beginning of this talk by not telling you who I am, but by posing you the problem. We don't know each other. How shall other people actually enter into your vision if you cannot communicate it rightly? So storytelling as a narrative of vision, and especially of your vision. I want to help you today to believe actually that a good narrative of your project can make people enter into your project, connect with your project, and believe in your project. And these are three absolutely key points that actually connect you and your vision with the future client. And that is something which you might think, why are we talking about this today? I haven't yet finished my project. I'm still in the midst of it. There is so much to work on. But actually, storytelling doesn't begin at the end of your product, but it's actually part of your designing process. So storytelling is something you have to think about today, tomorrow. Actually, yesterday would have been better still. So storytelling is not something that comes at the end of your product, but it's part actually of the designing. So let us have a look, because we need to think about your design. Design is vision. Design is vision into something that makes tomorrow a better world, that is working tomorrow. Design is something that doesn't exist today. You are engaging in objects, in devices, in clothes, in items that do not exist. So design means having vision, and design is a vision. Visions are stories about the future as it should be. Just think about that. Visions are stories about the future as it should be. So that means actually you should be able to represent them as stories and as a narrative as well. Your vision is connected to your own values. Your values are not mine. Your values are not of your friends. Your values are not those of your relatives. Your values are absolutely unique and independent and individual. So you need to ask yourself when you are starting out, and I think you should check that with yourself all the time, throughout the design process. What are my values? What are my values? What do I believe in? Because you have to get to the core of who you are, of what your values are, to actually being able to start the design process and to be authentic about it. Secondly, the question is, how can I communicate my vision of values, which are embodied, hopefully, in my design project, successfully to others? We are talking about many different difficult issues, especially because we are so wonderfully individual. So how do I transmit my individual idea about my values to others? I can do that, and that's a very common way, actually. I can do that through the normal, ordinary way of presenting two sheets of papers with a lot of bullet points, with plain text, with paragraphs. But I won't stand out. And bullet points and paragraphs and plain text don't make me connect to the other person. Don't make the other person enter into two pieces of paper, into some text. They don't convey necessarily your vision. So if you are actually being able to translate your proposal into a narrative, then that acts as a doorway. It acts as a way to catch your client, to relate, to let your client or the user relate to your product. We all love a good story. And stories, actually, narrations and stories help and have since olden times have helped to connect people. Nobody dismisses a good story. Everybody dismisses just two other pieces of paper, which are black on white with some bullet points. So a narrative connects with people because you want them to relate to your project. A narrative also creates empathy and understanding, very important for our users, and in the best case scenario, and that's really what you are aiming at, that's what you really want, it actually touches people's emotions and it lets people dream. Imagine your proposal can make people dream, can actually arouse emotions, can make people absolutely fascinated about your individual vision, which is based on your individual values. So you want to make people dream, and that is where storytelling comes in. I have said in the beginning that it's not only putting together a narrative that tells your design, but you should also think about designing with a narrative. So that is a process. You should, when you narrate your design, you can tell something about somebody about it, but you should also think about designing with a narrative. So you should actually try, as one of the many tools you are actually applying in your design process, try for once to think about a narrative in the first case. So what is the user of my object? And I know you do that. What is the user? What is the problem? What problems I'm addressing? How can I solve this problem? But that is not a one-way process. It is also a process that gets back to the narration of your design, and design with a narrative. It's a round circular movement, which is really important. So storytelling is not only, and that's what I wanted to emphasize today, because we are not only looking at the end user or at the presentation of your project, but we are actually looking at the point that storytelling is also useful to make your product relatable to others, but also it is designing with a narrative in mind. So that actually enhances, it will help define your own goals throughout the entire design process. It will keep you inspired, it will keep you make you dream, and maybe it makes you divert from your original project, and diversion is never bad. Diversion is some extra, is actually adding to your design process. So what I would like you to ask during the design process and in the leading up to the presentation is keeping track of your passes, keeping track of your ideas. Don't leave it to the end project saying, oh, it's all here, but actually keep track of the individual passes, how you got there. Keep track of your ideas. Keep track of your ideas you have when you walk on the street, you are thinking about your project, and you are actually putting it into a new context. You see a new situation, you find a new material, you find a new color, and it's a constant back and forth process between keeping track of your passes and the context that is developing. So the context is based on different situations and different climates, on, well, you know it, different climates, materials, users, expectations from the client's briefs. So please keep track of your passes. The story is not just appearing at the end, but it's part of the design process. When we are looking at storytelling in design, the most classic way actually of looking at it is a story or narrative. And it's usually defined as a sequence of events. And I'm sure you are using that, or many of you use these tools in your design process. And we are using that a lot in designing the user experience. So looking at what the user might experience using your design. So we are actually trying to map out what the user and the client of your device actually experiences via a set of actions and events. So we have a very typical narrative arc. How to do this, how to tell a story throughout the design process, and actually once you are coming to the stage of presenting it. There are many different ways, but the most classical one is actually the narrative arc. The narrative arc and how to plan the narrative out is not very different actually from writing a book. It is not very different from writing an article. It is not very different from writing a piece of music in many cases. It always needs a good plot, it needs a conflict, and it needs a solution. So if you are telling your product, if you want to narrate what your product is about, you need an introduction, you need to present a problem. So what do I want to change? What do I want to address? What is the problem with this device? You want a reaction, which is obviously up to this point until you get in is not a good one. So that is the climax. That is a negative reaction. And your device and your design is proposing this solution, and we have a happy ending. This is very basic, but it is actually very basic. And these are the 5 points which you actually might want to bring forward in your proposal when you are thinking about outlining your 2 pieces of paper, maybe not black on white, maybe with a structure that very clearly outlines actually the background information of your design. So that's the plot. That is actually the outset of your design. Then you have an initial incident. So you have actually a conflict. You have a situation that something needs to be better, needs to be improved upon. Then you have the rising action, very important, and then you have the climax. So basically, you have the user is happy and has a feeling of finding a solution in your project. So you need to I would advise you to actually try this out if you haven't yet. It's just one of many tools, but it's certainly a very useful one. So storytelling structure for product design or for designers, not only product designers, but actually for communicating your vision and your dreams, is not very different from writing a plot for a book. Give it an introduction, say what it is about, say what the problem is, and don't think, they already told me what the problem is, and that's why I don't need to repeat that. No, you are addressing that problem, but with your visions, with your ideas. Then there is a reaction to the problem, and hopefully there is a solution you are proposing to the problem, and a happy ending. So during this process, pretend to use the product. That's a very important part also in story writing, in novel writing. Pretend actually to be part of the product and try to get the client or the user, the end user, as close into your experience. I was saying that designing is vision, but designing is also experiencing. You are doing objects we all experience. So when you use storytelling design, actually thinking the mere task of using the product instead becomes an exploration for the user. So try to communicate to your user what it is to feel it, to use it, to touch it, to have it every day, to apply it. Actually, using means exploration. Using an exploration, if you don't know how to actually engage your client, if it is not shall not be from your perspective, you can also invent and build a character to live and you and your audience throughout your story. So you can say Max or Richard went there, this is the story, this is the situation, this is the background, this is what that person likes, that is what the person does during the day, this is what the person really, what Max or Richard really would like to enjoy, would actually like to use. It could also be actually the company. And so you are proposing to a very specific person, like in a story you have in a novel, you're proposing a person to actually apply and to use your design. Why? Because that is actually where we are creating an emotional bond. And you want, and I come back to the beginning, you want to sell, you want to promote, you want to you want to offer your design based on your values, which are then translating into your visions to people who have never exactly the same visions. So you are all alone, and you need to get your clients and the user onto an emotional bond between you and the person who's actually viewing it. And that is what storytelling is about. It's about creating that incredible bond between you and the person you are presenting it to. If you have it on a 2-sheet paper, that's not easy, but I'm sure if you apply these ideas, you will actually instill your project with so many interesting details and with the right angle to engage your future audience. You need to take your audience on a journey by building a connection and empathy. And you also need to actually make them think that they're living through a unique experience. So what you are proposing to them is different to what they see afterwards and what they're seeing before. And they will actually keep it in mind for quite a long time. That makes a winning project. So you also might try to actually make it so personalized that they think it's only for them. It's customized. Your idea, your vision is customized. And they might think, why didn't I come up with that? That would be lovely. So be authentic, be yourself. More than anything else, don't get distracted by other people's values or visions or beliefs, because it's only in your authenticity, in your individuality, where the power of your design lies. Try, however, to focus on the essence in your story, capture the essentials, and always ask yourself, what am I showing? And that's the most difficult part in storytelling. What is actually necessary to communicate, to get the information across, and to make my clients, to make the users as passionate about it, actually about my design as I am about it. So you want to communicate the design vision and soul, and what do you need to communicate for that? As a tip, you might use, and I very much appreciate that, it's colors. You might use text and other elements to communicate your story, which is very, very, very useful, and which is like in a good book when you actually enjoy it, because it is flowery, it has that extra, it engages with me, and it creates this kind of fantasy and this kind of vision that hooks me, which is all but boring, and that's really important. So your journey, or the journey you propose to your client, to propose your project, needs to be lively and engaging. It needs to, that's key of storytelling, it needs to get your client into it. So just to recap very, very, very fast on this very brief, and I said it would be brief, on this very brief introduction to storytelling and why the narrative of visions is really useful. You should get there by actually showing the essence of your soul, of your idea, of your belief, of your vision, of your values, which transform themselves into your idea. Be authentic, believe in what you're doing. Then actually you can connect on an emotional level through the narrative of your vision. You also demonstrate what the future may hold, motivating and inspiring the audience to take action, to take your design. That's what it means to take your design. So storytelling is a narrative of visions. It is a vital journey accompanying your design process. And I would like you throughout the process to cross-check all the time. Don't only bash forward towards the final product, but always cross-check with your storyline. Who uses it? How will it be used? What kind of person does it appeal for? How does it work? How are the weather climates? What are the materials questions? Always cross throughout your design process with your vision, which is your story. Does it fit? And if it does not fit, it will only add very valuable critical thinking to your design process. So it's a win-win situation actually to look at storytelling during your design process, and obviously at the end, because at the end this is what connects you and your design on an emotional level. So what do you value? That's my question, and I would like to leave it with this. I hope it was not too fast or too abstract. I hope it did make narrative sense, storytelling sense. And I would like to finish with the beginning again. We didn't know each other. You know me now better than I know you. I am selling my story to people I don't know. It's a very difficult task. And that's exactly the task you will have to grapple. So you need to be so clear, but you need to be so authentic about yourself first. Your individuality, your values, your own vision. So what do you value?
Thank you so much, Lisa. It was a very inspiring presentation. I'm sure the people that are going to be listening to and are listening to right now are going to get a huge improvement and are going to be able to understand a better way to make this whole thing of their projects and be able to narrate the whole thing so that they are actually able to captivate not only the judges but everybody else who is looking at their project in itself. So one of the things that we like to do after our judges presentation is we like to get into a little bit of a questions and answers type And one of the questions that we would like to ask you is, how do you measure the impact of design narrative?
If your client falls in love with it.
Simple.
The impact lies in people gasping, looking, sticking with their eyes on your presentation, being excited, entering your vision. That is when it gets exciting. It's like you have to write a book like a Nobel Prize. So you really have to enter into that category to sell your story, that it makes people absolutely crazy. So that is when it gets successful, and then you can actually sell it.
One of the next questions that we have, it's actually an interesting one, but it sort of bridges a weird gap in between two topics, which is the user journey and creating this sort of narrative. So the question is, what do you difference between the user journey and a narrative?
The user journey is vital to the project design, to the design process, and so the imagination of who is the end user, how will it be used, when will it be used. So that obviously goes hand in hand with all the other research you are doing, the data, the interviews, the ground research you have to do with interviewing people, with doing a lot of surveys, very often lots of surveys that go hand in hand with finding the right user journey for your product. But that is based on facts. That is based on also on objective and subjective values you are acquiring during that process. The other one, in the narrating phase, you are actually using one figure. You are using an example figure your audience falls in love with. It can be a mascot. It can be actually a person. It can be the wonderful boy who you are presenting to the audience as a case study, and that can be fictions. It doesn't have to be based on real values or on real data, but it is an auxiliary figure. It's a helping figure actually you employ to tell your story. So there are two different things, but they are obviously meeting. They are meeting because your research, your ground research out there with data, with people, with surveys, that obviously informs your story. But it's vice versa.
And that actually brings me a little bit to my next question. And this sort of unity that there are between both of them, it's actually very interesting. But how do you actually create an emotional bond to your user, to your client? I understand that a lot of the presentation that you gave us, it's sort of detailing this sort of path and narrative, but is there any specific tips to actually get like a bond, make a bond with your client or your user in this case?
It's an excellent question. I very much like this question. I really believe it's authenticity. It's being authentic. I'm sorry, being authentic. And that's the first ingredient of bonding, because if you believe in it, you can make anybody believe in it.
Right.
So it really comes down, don't try to copy, don't try to be as much yourself in your values, and I come back to that, in your values, in your beliefs, in your vision, which lies in your being authentic, and there is no such thing as an ingredient or as a recipe how to do that. But from my very long experience, if you believe in it, you can make the others believe.
That's an excellent point. I mean, I believing in your own project, like if you are the only one, if you're the creator, the master of this whole project, and you don't believe in it yourself, then it's very hard to convince others to actually follow you and believe in this project that you are actually trying to make. And it's very, very brought down to the point of being authentic and having this authenticity, because if you don't, you risk of being everybody else. You risk of being exactly like everybody else, right?
I absolutely think so. I don't think you have a very long life or successful life as a designer if you are actually not finding your own center. And that makes you stand out, and that makes you be able to defend your vision. Because I come back, design is vision, something that doesn't exist. So you need to defend something that is absolutely new. So you better do it with all your heart.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a good question. But I think we are going around and around this topic of being yourself, and that means a lot of a strong being in touch with yourself.
Completely agree. I think it overall it brings down, not only in design but even in your own personal life, it probably brings down to having a good life, to being just yourself and being able to be free to be yourself. Let me ask you a next question though. Do you know of any real world examples in the actual market that are successful with design storytelling?
Absolutely. We have, let me think, Google. If you want to look into Google, Google is a brilliant, it has a very strong storytelling capacities. I just looked them up the other days, and they are mind-blowing because they really know how to build up a project and at the same time actually build up the storytelling of their project. But they go hand in hand. There is not the vision that goes before. Storytelling, sometimes there is a vision, but the storytelling lags behind that vision, or the storytelling goes before and it's not yet realizable. It's not yet there. You cannot yet do it. But if you want to look at one company, I think very, very strong on that is Google right now. Is very, very strong on actually working with a narrative of visions. Very inspiring.
Yeah, I think most of the bigger companies actually they have this nailed down, because it is an important part not only for the design process like we're suggesting, but rather as a company they must have a reason to be, a logic through their life as a company. And if we don't have this narrative, then it's absolutely just doing things for doing. So for sure, it's important to have this sort of line of life. And I think Google, like you said, and Apple most likely probably also does the same.
Their applications are based on end users, on the user experience. So their applications are pure user experience, and that's why the narrative is so important, because the user is at the center of their design.
Exactly.
So
one question here is, can you suggest a book that explains also the practice of how to build our own narratives and aesthetics? And it's a two-parter, so let's start with this one.
I'm afraid I have no book laying out. I have seen a few books, but they were not worthwhile opening. And there is actually very little. Unfortunately, there is not much written on it. And it has become very important in the past 8 to 10 years. Very much so in the Anglo-Saxon countries, very much in America, where storytelling is key to design, to the design process, and obviously to the selling of design. But I will look out for it, and I will all let you know.
For sure.
Promise.
And the second part of this question is, how do you successfully express your values or our values?
That's a big question. That's a very big question,
Yes.
especially as I said before. What are our values? Who are we? Who are you right now that are watching us? I, I'm dying to see who you are. Actually, it would be really great. But what are common values? I think we have quite a lot of common values today, and unfortunately, many of those have to do with the situation of our Earth, and with ecological questions, and with environmental questions, and materials, and use of materials, and eco-sustainability. So I think we have big values such as the survival of mankind on our Earth, and the survival of our Earth, for example, is a common value. But other than that, we have many different values. Luckily, we do. So I don't think that there is such a thing as many common values, except the survival of our Earth, of mankind, these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean,
It's very difficult. I would like to know.
it's difficult to actually show the core person who you are, but I think knowing or expressing your actual necessities, or expressing yourself in general, I think communicating, it boils down to communicating and being able to tell other people exactly how you feel and how you would want to be and how you want things to be done. And I believe that can be translated into any of the design fields and any of the practices around design. And with that, we actually would love to thank you again for all the time that you have given us. And it's a wonderful feeling to be here with you and to spend this time with you, learning for everything that from all the experience of years that you've had. Thank you. No, our pleasure, and we would love to have you again. And thank you so much last year for being part of our judges panel. I'm sure that people that were able to see the projects and were able to be able to grow. And I'm sure the people that are joining this year also will be able to also enjoy this sort of help that we're trying to bring them by bringing people like yourself.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this great initiative. And I have endorsed it last year, and it is a fabulous chance, a fabulous community, I think, that is growing here. And so thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And good luck to everybody.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate that you have joined, and we hope to see you on our next live that we'll probably be doing soon. We'll be announcing it via our Instagram and our YouTube, and of course via our website. Once again, we would like to thank our sponsors. In this case, all the sponsors: Casina, Keyshot, D2P, Design to Product, Studio Volpi, and of course our new sponsor, which is Young Designers India. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We are going to see you next time.